Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, The Ups and Downs of Elevator Safety Maintenance. With many of our viewers today living in condominiums and relying on elevators to smoothly function every single day, we know that you'll get tremendous value from today's session. Today's topic will cover all the key items related to understanding the difference among elevator maintenance companies, preventative maintenance, the elevator contract, and the most common causes for outages, and modernization of your elevator along with technology and other considerations. So there's so much related today for elevators and how to get the best performance for them. We could probably keep going on for many hours, but still our goal today is to get as much information in a high concentration format so that we can keep an open discussion and make it most relevant for you today. You'll likely have many questions, so please feel free to submit your questions at any time in the Q&A option at the toolbar below. We'll try to introduce those questions, especially when they're relevant to a particular slide throughout the discussion. And of course, at the very end, we'll have a Q&A session where we'll answer as many questions as we can that we have time for by our industry experts. In the final slide, we'll also share our email addresses will be available. So you wish to contact us at the very end, or if you have any questions that we might not have had time to address during the webinar session. So thank you again for joining us today, and let's get right into it. My name is David Ward, Director of Business Development with AKAM Property Management, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. And we're really happy to have you. Today we are very lucky to have Erica Dalesandro. Erica brings tremendous experience with her as Business Development Manager for Nouveau Elevator. And Erica will be leading the discussion today for various topics related to all types of things related to elevators. We also have Alex Argento, our Vice President of Operations for AKAM Southeast. Alex is our top person related to here for operations and anything related to larger projects, of which elevators can be a significant portion of some of the larger projects that we're facing today. And again, my name is David, and I'm going to pass it over to Alex.
Thanks, everybody. Erica, thanks for being here. And I want to make sure we say it right. Erica, you are the only state of Florida certified DBPR vertical transportation educator. Do I have that right?
That's right. That's right, Alex.
Pretty close, right? That was long. We got it all. And everybody, and why is that important? Because Erica's not just here just to talk about or sell you something. She's actually the person that the state registered to pass along this information and to help train people. So we're super excited. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about maintenance. We're going to be maintenance contracts. I think that in every property that we're on and we're involved with, of the top 3 or 4 critical infrastructure items are elevators. I think it's also one thing that people take for granted working. We're going to go into this later, but in prepping with this with Eric, it was so interesting to talk about just useful life about something that should run for 20 years every day, every single time you push a button. It's crazy. Like what works like that? So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about just companies. What should you be looking for in a company? What does preventative maintenance actually mean, and what does it entail? We're going to talk about the key aspects of elevator maintenance contract, common causes for elevator outages that lead to downtime and or additional costs that you want to try and focus and stay away from, and then some modernization and some technology. So we're going to jump right in. David will go to the next slide. Erica, thanks a million. Thank you for being here. Talk to us. Talk to us about how elevator companies are different.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for your time today on this Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Like Alex said, I am the only certified DBPR appointed elevator educator in the entire state of Florida, teaching property managers and board members on how to maintain their vertical transportation needs, i.e. your elevators, and sometimes in the commercial world, we have some escalators as well. I am with Nouveau Elevator. We are a 37-year-old company. We are in 16 different states. We stem out from Long Island, New York to San Diego, California, and 15 of the Midwest states in between. We service the entire state of Florida here, as well as all of our surrounding areas. I'm here to answer all the questions that you have, and hopefully going through this Q&A, we're able to answer all of those before we get them inside the question box. So let's chat about how elevator companies are different. Elevator companies are different based off of the coverage. We want to take a look at how large the elevator company is. We have those who manufacture elevator parts, and then we have those who only service elevator parts. We have our major four that everyone's used to. We have our TKE, our Otis, our Schindler, and our Kone. These are our elevator manufacturers. They manufacture elevators, they install elevators, and they sell elevator parts. Then you have companies such as Nouveau. We do not install, we maintain, we service, we modernize, we inspect, and we take care of the overall health of the elevator. When it comes to understanding the differences between elevator companies, you want to ask a variety of questions. One of the biggest questions that I get in the industry is, where is your office located and how do your guys operate? You want to make sure that when you're hiring an elevator company that they have full coverage. We understand when it comes to price, you want to get a company that is lower in price, but a lot of times when you find a elevator company that is very low in price, it is Eric, the elevator man, and he has 1 or 2, 3 gentlemen on his team. You want to hire a company that has full coverage. You want to ensure that there's always someone on call at all times. You also want to make sure that there's someone that has a route in the area to ensure that when an elevator goes down, that we get proper response time to that, whether it be an entrapment, the elevator is stuck, or the elevator is inoperation. You want to understand how big the company is. If the company is a unionized company, you want to understand what their coverage zones are and what their response time is.
Is that something, Erica, that when we talk about just size and breadth of a company, you name the big four who manufacture and install new product, and again, we know Nouveau, and then we're not shy about talking about it, and we know what you guys cover, and you work on everything out there. Is that coverage map something that you show to customers, or is that something that a board really needs to focus on and ask that question up front with someone?
Absolutely. When a board is considering signing a new elevator contract, the number one question should be, what buildings do you service in the area? In a 10-mile radius, 5-mile radius, how many buildings do you have under contract? When we're looking at elevator technicians, that each technician has a route when it comes to your route mechanics. So we have our route mechanics, we have our repair team that comes in for special projects and special repairs. Then you have your modernization team, and then you have an inspection. You're taking a look at reviewing a new elevator company. You want to understand what the maintenance route in your area looks like. Route in your area. Most mechanics have anywhere between 60 on the low end to 100 elevators on their route per month. So when you're at your property, when there's an entrapment at the property, you want to make sure that there's someone local to the area who can come out and alleviate the entrapment or can get the elevator back up and running. They may be at a building next door, down the road, within 10 minutes from the property, so that they can alleviate any emergent concerns.
Are routes typically 9 to 5, 7 to 7? What's sort of typical in the industry for a non-emergency Monday through Friday, what you'd want on a route?
7 a.m. to 3 p.m. is the usual time. Most elevator companies are unionized companies, and the union is the entity that sets the time frame standard for the technicians, where 7 to 3 is their regular work hours. Anything after 3:30, I believe, becomes overtime.
Erica, if I could jump in as a former on-site manager, we might hear, oh, this particular company is unionized, this particular company is not unionized. For those either board members or CAMs that might not know exactly what that's all about, why does union versus not union for technician matter? What's the difference there for maybe skill set or safety? And then does that have an impact on labor costs?
So when it comes to to the unionized companies, one of the biggest things that their workforce is extremely skilled. They have comprehensive training where the technicians undergo rigorous apprenticeship programs and ongoing training. They go to school during the week with the union in the evening, and they are hands-on with a master technician during the day. They also have many union certifications adhering to industry standards and providing quality assurance for the work that they're doing. They also meet and adhere to safety regulations as far as reducing risks, best practices, risks, mitigating the risk of accidents during installation, maintenance, and repairs. They're held to a different set of accountability, as the unionized workforce is held to high safety and performance expectations, which lead to better outcomes. We also, they are held to the fire, essentially, when it comes to their reliability, not only by the company that they work for, but also by the union. And then, when it comes to cost, it depends on the company and what the work that they're doing, because the union is who sets what the technicians need to be paid on an hourly basis based off of their education and understanding of elevators. It also,
I think that's critical, right?
Labor stability, to where they trust the union and they're honest with the union. And then in turn, we have clear transparency, at the roundtable discussions.
I think that's also critical, a point, to everyone watching, that, as Erica mentioned, that cost, that sliding scale, and again, we won't get into that today, but that scale is also about the skill level and the job that technician is going to perform. So again, as you think about building a maintenance agreement or bidding a maintenance agreement, clearly that would matter. Let's go on to talking about proprietary versus non-proprietary parts. This is a very, very interesting discussion. A lot of downtime potential, a lot of cost implication. Tell us about what that means in the industry and in a contract.
So, proprietary versus non-proprietary parts. Proprietary elevator parts are components specifically designed and manufactured and sold by the original elevator manufacturers, which we call our OEMs of these elevators. The parts are usually protected by patents, trademarks, or other forms of intellectual property rights. They're often exclusively available to the OEMs or their authorized dealers, limiting access to these parts and restricting maintenance repairs to specific suppliers. So when I speak proprietary parts, I'm talking our manufacturers, our major four, in which I mentioned before. When it comes to these manufacturers and the properties that they currently have under contract, if the property needs a part and the part is available, but owned and manufactured by another company, they will not install that part at the property. They will reach out to their own, inner office to their own manufacturing plant for this part. Hence why sometimes when we have these really large companies, as our elevator contractors and elevators down, the elevator's down for 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Nouveau is a non-proprietary company. We do not install non-proprietary parts unless the elevator absolutely calls for the part. And let me explain why. The distinctions between a proprietary part and a non-proprietary part is the availability and accessibility, as proprietary parts are usually available just to the OEMs and their authorized dealer, i.e. their buddies. Non-proprietary parts are more available to multiple suppliers and manufacturers. Nouveau in Florida utilizes a local distributor located in Pompano Beach, which cuts down on the cost, the lead time, and the availability. When it comes to cost, proprietary parts can be more expensive due to the exclusive nature of the manufacturer's control over pricing. Non-proprietary parts may offer more competitive pricing due to wider availability and competition amongst different suppliers. And then, of course, everybody has the question when it comes to compatibility and standards. Proprietary parts are specifically engineered for a particular system and that system only, while non-proprietary parts are designed to be more universally compatible with various elevator systems. When we're taking a look at utilizing a company such as Nouveau with non-proprietary parts, and before we get into contracts and things like that, I am not an attorney. I cannot give legal advice. I can just point you in the right direction. When it comes to utilizing a company that does not install proprietary parts, always ask the question, since I have a proprietary system and you're installing a non-proprietary part, what is the warranty on this part? When you're signing the proposal for this part, ask the company to put it in writing. This part is covered for 1 year. What is the manufacturer warranty? You always want to know what the manufacturer warranty is, because in the event that the part is defective or something happens to the part within that amount of time, you have in writing that you can now get a defective replacement for that part at no additional cost. There may be additional cost for labor to install, but for the original part, there should not be, being as though it should be under manufacturer warranty at that point in time.
I think this is a really important piece in prepping for this with Eric and David. One thing that I think was really eye-opening to me was proprietary parts. And Erica, if I go off script, jump in. When you replace a proprietary part with a proprietary part, as Erica said, it does exactly and only what that part did originally for that system. A non-proprietary part that will actually perform that function might have technology built into it to receive newer technology and do more down the road. So
it comes with what we would consider a mandatory upgrade. So it comes with an upgrade, and one of the biggest things is cost, because then later down the road, when you're updating other portions of the elevator, some of the technology does not need to be updated in its entirety, as that piece is already an updated element or part.
And that's really interesting. And I just thought for everyone listening again, so that, I think sometimes we think about non-proprietary as less than, not original, not doing the same thing. In this world, it's not. So this was a really great piece to consider. And again, we'll put that in the parking lot, because we could talk about that for the next hour. But planning out larger projects and the ability for your maintenance team to handle that. Talk to us about how you like to approach that, and what associations should really think about when they're thinking about larger projects for their systems.
So when you're undergoing a large project, with your elevators, you want to understand how long the elevator is going to be down for. What is the lead time for the part? If you have, 2 elevators down, how can we take one part from one elevator and put it in the other so we can have one that's fully running? You want to plan for these projects. You want to budget for these projects. So when you're taking a look at, you're getting a new elevator company coming on, or you have a great rapport with your elevator service person, or your elevator mechanic, or your salesperson, essentially, you want to have what we consider a preventative maintenance plan. So if we're going into the elevator and we're taking a look, and we have 6 elevators there, and we know that the door operator on elevator number 2 is bad. So then we understand that all the elevators are the same age. With the elevators being the same age, if elevator 2's door operator went bad, the probability of a couple more going bad in the near future is going to come about. So we want to plan for those things accordingly. When you run through an elevator from top to bottom with a preventative maintenance plan, then you say, okay, this is what we have on our plan. We have 12 items on our plan. Items 1 through 4 should be taken care of within months 1 to 3. Then, items 5 to 9 should be taken care of from time frame from 6 to 18 months, and then so on and so forth, because the budget is something that needs to be assessed accurately. No one likes to open the mail and get a $50,000 bill. So, understanding what your elevators are going through by taking care of the elevators, not putting the elevators through unnecessary strain, cleaning the elevator door tracks. 80%, 80% of elevator shutdowns are due to elevator doors. So vacuuming the tracks of the doors, making sure that it's clean of debris and sand and dirt. These sensors are extremely temperamental. The elevator is not a human. If there's something safely impeding the doors from closing, the elevator will shut down, thinking that there's a safety concern. When there's something as small as, I know this is going to make everybody chuckle a little bit, something as simple as a acrylic nail from a lady. She happened to be walking past and, she was holding a bag and it clipped the nail fell off into the door track. I've had that happen a couple times where this tiny item has shut the elevator down due to the sensors. So you want to understand what projects your elevators are undergoing, especially when you have more than one elevator at the property. Because if a part goes bad on one, if they're all the same age without any upgrades, then I'm sure that, it becomes a domino effect where they all start to have the same concerns because of the age of the elevators.
Erica,
and we're gonna let's roll David into preventative maintenance. But I think one thing, Erica, that you brought out that I do want to just leave this slide with our viewership is the ability to plan for and schedule those repairs, those replacements as needed, as you said, sort of first 90 days, 90 to 120, the next 18 months. That's all real. And again, a skilled maintenance provider should be able to put together a plan of attack for your community to be able to do that, so you can have a little bit more cost certainty. No one's guaranteeing timeline. We understand that. But at least you can understand, short, medium, and long-term expenses as it was done once it was inspected by, a very skilled technician. So I think that's really important.
But also having the conversation with your sales going on at the property, i.e., I had a property in Palm Beach last month. They are undergoing construction. They need a full door package. Being as though they're within 3 miles of the coastline, the salt and water content in the air had corroded their door tracks. So it's nice to do the door package, but it's not responsible to do a door package in the middle of construction, as I understand the property and what the property is going through. What we did is we sent our gentleman there. They took a wire brush, hooked it up to a drilled down all of the rust, all of the concern, mitigated all of the corrosion, sprayed the elevator tracks down, and gave it a temporary fix until the construction at the property was done. And then we can move on to the door package. So understanding the building in its entirety and all that it's going through will essentially help the elevators, because we don't want to request an elevator repair while we're doing a construction project or facade restoration project, because the dust and the debris, will prevent the elevators from behaving appropriately.
Right. No, that's amazing stuff. And we're going to get onto that actually in the next slide. But what you're saying moments ago, Erica, was perfect, because we're realizing how much of this is so connected. So if we're planning ahead on larger projects, the better we do at preventative maintenance, it actually might delay the need or the urge or the rush to have a larger project, because we can actually extend our life in having things work perfectly. So just stepping back and keeping things from like the basics, again, almost like we were asking about labor versus, union versus non-union. We hear these terms, preventative maintenance, we hear it a lot. What does that actually mean? Like, how do we define preventative maintenance? What is that?
So preventative maintenance is your elevators having a maintenance technician come out once a month. When I take a look at the major four, they're on a quarterly program. You cannot be proactive and preventative on a reactive approach. Every 3 months, servicing your elevators is not the correct way to maintain the elevator. Elevators need 1 hour of monthly maintenance per month to ensure that the sensors are clean. The rollers are all balanced and even. to prevent any type of bouncing. We want to make sure that the door tracks are clean to prevent any scraping. Things that we would not think, such as dirt and debris and dust, and one roller being more broken down than the rest, would cause such major concerns. And when there's a very small elevator issue, elevators are loud. They start to make these very loud cranking noises when they're riding up and down these guardrails. So preventative maintenance is 1 hour of monthly maintenance per month. We also want to understand what is happening on preventative maintenance. So once a month at Nouveau, when we come out to maintain your elevator, we are reviewing and cleaning the car's operation, the machine and the brakes, the traveling cable, if you have a traction elevator, the jack and piston system if you have a hydraulic elevator, the starter panel, the hangers, the pit and the wheelhouse, the lamps and the buzzers, the controllers, the selector and leveling devices, the motor generator and regulators, the safety door edges and rays, and the hydro jack unit. On a quarterly basis, they're taking a look at the car top, the car door operator, the governor, the cables and fasteners, the retiring cam, the compensator switch, the sheaves, and the guide shoes and rollers. And then on an annual basis, they should be checking the dispatch panel, the call and haul buttons, the door interlocks, the position indicators, the hatch doors, the safeties and buffers, the limit switchers, and the hall lantern gongs. I understand that this is all jibber jabber when you don't understand. So one of the best things that you can do is have an amazing relationship with someone at your elevator company that you can reach out to immediately. When you're at the property, you can take a picture of what the concern is. There's a button that may be out. Like I say, hall lanterns and gongs. Most people don't know what that is. When you're in the hallway and you press the button, it shows you where the elevator is. It's a fancy word for it, but if it's out, we need to know why it's out. Sometimes it's not just an LED screen. It's not just a light. There's a bigger concern in the controller that needs to be diagnosed. When there's an elevator issue, it's best to notify your elevator company so that on the next round of maintenance, if it's not emergent, they can have, when the technician comes out, he can come with a laptop, plug his laptop into the controller, and the controller will spit out the codes, letting the elevator technician know what the concern was and how to remediate the concern and prevent the concern from reoccurring.
I think that the list, to your point, it's huge, and that was great. And we've talked about this a bunch, but I think that, again, for our associations and our listeners, that one thing that's really clear there to me is this constantly goes back to that question of cost, right? Associations are really concerned about cost. The list that you just named that I'm going to perform monthly to quarterly to biannually to annually is very, very different, potentially across, a leveling sheet when you're out asking for quotes from companies if you didn't have that level of specificity. So again, one thing to the team, and to folks watching, you'll have access to get to Erica, and I'll tell you right now, I would highly recommend that you take her up on these opportunities to help level, because if you missed 3 or 4 of those things over a year that Erica just mentioned that should be in maintenance, you're paying for it somewhere else. Worst case after hours, worst case on a weekend after hours, worst case on a holiday after hours. Because in my building, my elevator does not break down at Monday at 9 a.m. It breaks Sunday at 2 in the morning. So that's exactly what we want to do. So again, I think that was great. Talk a bit about, as you build that plan, though, and you can build that plan with your maintenance provider, the type of elevator. I think a lot of people just don't even know what types there are out there.
So, most, when we talk type of elevator, we're talking style. So in the state of Florida, for the most part, we have 3 types of elevators. So we have our beautiful high rises on the beach that are traction elevators. We have our beautiful garden style that are sometimes a little, further from the beach. They are hydraulic elevators. And then we have our machine roomless elevators. And let me explain the difference. So A traction elevator is a elevator on a rope or belt pulley design system. It pulls the elevator from the top of the car. It serves mid-rise to high-rise buildings in the state of Florida, usually anything over 8 stories. It offers a smoother ride than hydraulic elevators. The travel distance is 500 feet per minute. Elevator travel is measured by feet per minute. So traction elevators usually travel up to 500 feet per minute. They are more expensive to install and they take a little longer, being as though they need a crane to install, as the elevator room, machine room, is located on the roof of the building. Then we have our hydraulic elevators are on a jack, pushes the elevator from the bottom of the car. They're more affordable and quicker to install. They're less expensive maintenance and repair costs. They're better for transporting heavy loads due to the hydraulic lifting power. They're intended for low-rise applications, anything under 8 stories. And they offer slower speeds as they travel 150 to 200 feet per minute. They take up less. Their machine rooms are usually located on the first or second floor of the building. But when there are elevator concerns, they are usually louder than the traction elevators. One of the major concerns with hydraulic elevators is they have oil spills in the pit. And that usually comes from a defective packing that needs to be checked once a year. And then we have everybody's least favorite type, which seems to be what some developers are trying to install now, which is considered a machine roomless elevator. This does not need a room outside of for the controller. The controller is mounted to the inside of the shaftway. It's designed for small to mid-rise buildings such as clubhouses or secondary or clubhouses or areas with second-story gyms or pools. It has a smaller footprint with no machine room requirements. It has a smaller motor size and a quieter ride. It is a massive challenge for maintenance technicians, as in my experience, elevator technicians are usually bigger guys because the elevator parts are so expensive. So these gentlemen have bigger hands. So with a machine roomless elevator, the control panel in the elevator that houses all of the buttons and the LED screen in a machine roomless elevator, that opens up and the machine is behind that tiny little space. So to get a bigger guy to get his 2 hands inside this little hole to try to figure out and troubleshoot the elevator, wires hooking up a computer, it's many challenges. I only have one gentleman who's an expert at it, and he's he's a smaller guy, but it does pose a lot of concerns, and it has the highest cost for maintenance and repair.
That's great in going through the 3, and again, learning that these machine roomless ones are so expensive and time consuming to maintain for just a small run, big deal. We hit on cleaning, and I want to keep rolling a bunch, but I want to hit just on annual inspections and category 5 testing before we leave here. So talk a bit about the annual inspections that you perform and what category 5 testing.
So elevators need 2 types of inspections mandated by the state. Elevators need an annual inspection every year, and then they also need a category 5 inspection. An annual and category 5 elevator inspection are mandatory safety measures conducted on elevators to ensure they meet safety standards and regulations. During an annual inspection, a qualified elevator inspector will typically assess various components of the elevator systems. This includes examining the mechanical and electrical systems, checking for any signs of wear and tear, ensuring emergency features like alarm buttons, emergency lighting, and phones are functional, inspecting the doors, cables, brakes, and evaluating the overall performance of the elevator. During a category 5 inspection, the same exact examination is completed with added weights. So if the elevator states that it can carry up to 2,500 pounds, your elevator service provider will show up to the property with 2,400 pounds. Put the weights in the elevator to push the elevator to its maximum amount of strain and stress to still ensure safe transportation for residents, guests, and vendors. These inspections help identify any potential issues or malfunctions that may compromise the safety or efficiency of the elevator. If any problems or safety concerns are identified during the inspection, they must be addressed and resolved to ensure the elevator meets safety standards and continues to operate safely. When you have an elevator inspection, it is compiled by two companies. You have your elevator company, your service provider, such as Nouveau, and a third-party entity. That third-party entity witnesses your service provider put the elevator through various tests. The third-party entity fills out what looks like, I correlate it to an old school report card, white copy, pink copy, yellow copy, carbon copy. They make all of their notations where the elevator passes or fails, or if the elevator passes but needs a light or a switch, so they pass with what they call exceptions. Your elevator company is not responsible for your elevator certificates. Your third-party company is the entity responsible for those certificates. Your company puts the elevator through the inspection with a third-party entity. That third-party entity takes that report card and sends off that information to the state in Tallahassee. Tallahassee then communicates with your local municipality, whether it be Miami-Dade County, Broward County, Palm Beach County, and then the property, after you receive a passing result, your elevator company is privy to this information. After you receive a passing result, whether it's the property manager or the management company or the board president or treasurer, whoever it may be, it is their responsibility to, once they receive the passing result, to then go on to the county website and pay the fees that are owed to the state, and then they will receive a copy of the inspection. There have been so many times I hear from clients, oh, I didn't receive my elevator certificates. And I ask, let me give a call to my team. Let me find out what's going on. And then I call my inspections team, and my team says, oh, well, the manager didn't pay the inspection fees. So, it's three of us that need to work together. It needs to be your service provider, your third-party entity, and the manager or person responsible for paying those third-party fees.
And Erica,
once the fee is paid, and there's a passing result, you should receive an elevator an elevator certificate with a passing result to put in the elevator. Yes, David.
No, Erica, that's great. And I would even add a fourth, just from prior on-site management, all the local laws. And I love that you mentioned the local municipality, just to make it tangible. For example, City of Miami Beach, a lot of times I would deal with the building department, elevator department of City of Miami Beach, that would change their laws from maybe year to year, or Miami-Dade County would change. Back in the day, it was maybe once every so many years you would have to do a power shutdown test, to replicate a loss of power. Would your elevator still work in that emergency situation? And correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, I think even Miami Beach, or say Miami-Dade, they've now, lack of a better phrase, made the laws a little bit more strict, and now it's become annual. So what a management company and a manager needs to know is that you also have to plan ahead and get your generator company also involved. So there's actually a fourth group. There's a lot to it for an annual inspection. So
that's for Miami-Dade and Broward counties.
Right.
Miami-Dade and Broward County requires you to have your generator company present during the inspection to ensure, in the event of a power surge, that the generator will kick in the event that there is a passenger in the elevator in the middle of transport when the power goes out, that the elevator will return to the next floor or lobby based off of the settings of the elevator to release that passenger.
Right.
You're right, David. Thanks for
Yeah,
that.
no, it's a good one to just plan ahead because there's a lot of scheduling involved. So you're finding out, okay, is your inspector that's representing, say, the inspecting company is representing the city of Miami Beach, or are they available? Is Erica available, or her technician? Is the generator company available on the same calendar date? Does that work for your board president or your board that they like that date? So there's a lot of coordination. And the last thing I would add, because you were talking about what do you need to do every quarter or every 6 months, or what do you need to maintain once a year? The one thing a lot of managers miss, and we stay on top of at AKAM, is the ropes, because it's almost like your appraisal every 3 years. It's not on the annual checklist. It's every so often years. And as the elevators are used, and Eric, I want to hear your input, they're being worn, right? And
That's right.
every day they're going up and down, and they're getting looser and they're getting looser. And on the annual inspection, a manager should be alongside the technician, alongside the inspector, to look at the ropes and see how far away they are from the very bottom of the pit. Because the longer that they extend and the looser that they get, you'll know a year in advance. You can start to notice when it's maybe a year away that you might have to start planning for a replacement of ropes because they're too loose. So I want to hear what your thoughts on that, Erica.
Also, when taking a look at the ropes, ropes need to be lubricated. They need to be monitored. One of the biggest areas of concern when it comes to ropes, or to recognize that there's a concern, is when your ropes start rouging. And rouging is a fancy word for it, a red, rusted, powdery dust that comes off of the ropes. So if you're in your elevator room and you notice that there is some red dust on the floor, something in high orange color, red coloring on the floor, your ropes need some cables, but your cables need some attention. They are steel cables, but they do need to be maintained. Within 3 miles of the coastline, they even need a little bit more attention, being as though the salt and water content in the air, water and steel, when they come in contact with one another, there is a chemical reaction that happens there. So we want to make sure that there's no rouging. When your elevator technician's out, you want to make sure that the ropes are not unraveling in the middle of the shaftway when he's doing his preventative maintenance. And these are questions to ask. When you have a preventative maintenance company come out, you want to have your technician check in with the manager or the entity that may be, maybe the front desk or whatever, so we know that the technician is there, so that we can ask these questions. Are the ropes okay? Do you see any signs of wear and tear? Is there something we need to be made aware of? We want to be proactive in these approaches because elevators are life safety. So we want to make sure that the elevators are down for the limited amount of time. And if, we notice that we can lubricate to extend the life expectancy just a little bit more while we place an order for new ropes, it prevents the downtime, and the event of emergency for somebody to be, someone who does have a heart condition, or have limited mobility, stuck on their floor. It's hard to carry someone down 23 flights of stairs because the elevator isn't working. And I urge board members and property managers to take this into consideration. Many of you out there are way more vintage in age than myself. And when I speak to that, when we're taking a look at our elevators, we want to consider those at the property who are 55 plus. We want to consider those who may have had surgery. We want to take those people into consideration. I look at it like a grandparent of mine, or a parent of mine. I would never want my family member to be stuck in an apartment without emergency aid because a repair came through and it wasn't diligently reviewed or taken seriously.
No,
So,
definitely.
completely agree. Let's move to contract now, just to how we tie all this together. And again,
I'm not an attorney, Alex. I'm not an attorney.
I love it. We even put the disclaimer on there. We always consult with your attorney. So we wanted to put a few bullet points, and Erica, you can sort of run through them as you see fit. But what we thought was really important for everyone, scope, the length, cancellation cause, renewal. These are really key elements. But if we talk about scope, I think one of the biggest things that you talked about, Erica, was hours per month. And you've been saying this all along, and it was talk a bit about how the scope of work wants to be developed in any good maintenance agreement.
When you're taking a review of your maintenance contract, in any contract, you want to know what you're getting. You know, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. You know, so you want the contract to indicate exactly what it is you're getting. With that contract, you're paying X amount of dollars for what? You know, we don't want to say, well, we're paying for maintenance. Well, what is maintenance? How long is maintenance? How often is maintenance? So if we're looking at being proactive and with the preventative approach, we want 1 hour of monthly maintenance per elevator at each property. When it comes to the term or the length of the contract, all of that is negotiable with the elevator company. I don't advise a 1-year contract, and the reason I don't is because elevators, we need time to figure out what happened. We also need to remediate any of the lack of maintenance that the elevators faced at the hands of the person whom the property wasn't happy with previously. So I would say on the shortest end, I would say 3 years, just so that the elevators can be brought up to current standards. Make sure that they meet all code requirements so that there is a relationship between the technician and the elevator. There, you know, some elevators, there's an elevator in Miami-Dade County that we maintain right now from 1942. And it has a lot of its, I'm sorry, 1902. And it has a lot of its original parts, but that's with preventative maintenance. Preventative maintenance will ensure that you get the longest lifespan and longevity out of your. When it comes to a cancellation clause, you wanna know why you're canceling. You wanna have conversations with your elevator company as to what your concerns are. Elevators are not something we just want to change vendors all the time. You know, we want to work with someone that we trust. We want to work with someone that we know is clear and concise and can explain why the elevator needs these repairs, what caused these repairs, and how we can remediate these repairs going forward. When it comes to a cancellation clause, most elevators calls for 30 days to cure. You identify what the concerns are. You let your elevator company know these are our concerns. And then they have 30 days to remediate those concerns. And then every contract has an auto renewal if you don't advise your elevator company that you will be canceling within 30, 60, 90, 120 days based off of the contract. You want to try to work it out with the elevator company if preventative maintenance is happening. Human error happens, you know, but when you have an open rapport with your elevator company, the person that you trust there's an opportunity to remediate any open concerns.
I think also one key point that we had brought up is in the scope also, and I love how you say it, you want to understand what you're paying for. All those parts, those inspections, the things that you have talked about prior, those should be listed too, right? Because if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. I agree with you. So the idea about what's included with the kit of parts that's coming with your maintenance also drives costs, right? And when you're trying to compare companies apples to apples, that's really important. So again, another key thing for consideration is exactly what parts are included and what's not.
Your response time as well. You want to know what the response time is for an entrapment, which is a passenger who is stuck in the elevator. The elevator for some reason stopped working, and it happened while there was a passenger inside. You also want to know what the response time is for any service call. One of the biggest complaints that I get when speaking to those who are looking to change their elevator company is, oh, well, I placed a service call at 8 o'clock in the morning. And the first question I got back from the dispatcher was, do you approve overtime? Where's the understanding there? If I have a maintenance contract with you, you're agreeing to maintain the elevator when it's needed. So how can you be proactive when you're asking me to approve overtime? What am I paying you on a monthly basis for? So you want to know what your response time is, for elevator entrapments, as well as service calls. Now, if you call at 2:30, and you have an elevator shutdown, they're going to ask you if, they should ask you if you approve overtime, because it's such the end of the day. But, if it's the middle of the summer and the business and the property's only occupied 20% because, everybody's, away, taking care of their own responsibilities, or whatever it may be, you may want to say, I don't approve overtime, I would like a holdover. So with a holdover, that means that the elevator will remain shut down as long as there's no entrapment, that the elevator will remain shut down to the next business day, and the elevator company should have somebody there at the start of business day, which is 7 a.m., which would prevent overtime costs for the elevator. Now we understand emergent concerns are emergent concerns. I'm not saying not to approve the overtime. I'm saying be diligent and understand, once again, what the property needs. Every property is different. A building that's 55 plus, I would review the opportunity to have overtime if it is the only elevator at the property and we absolutely need it. We don't want an emergency to happen, because most emergency happens at 3 o'clock in the morning when everybody's sleeping. And that's just the way of the world, Murphy's Law. But you want to make sure that when you're taking a look, when you're assessing the concern, if there's no emergent need, or if there's 2 elevators or 3 elevators at the property and that elevator can afford it to be left down for the evening, I would call in, place a service call, let them know that what the concern is, and say, I don't approve overtime. I would like a holdover. I would like someone to be here first thing tomorrow morning during my maintenance schedule, during my regular scheduled maintenance hours, so that this concern can be remediated without any additional costs.
Right.
And that's just a super point, right? Like that, and that's just not something, to your point, you're off season, you have 5 elevators in the building, 1's down. You don't have to have somebody there at 10 o'clock at night in the middle of July if the building's 20% occupied. Again, all the disclaimers. I think that's great. In our 5 minutes left, David, I want Erica's time for the most common causes. I just really wanted to have her be able to run through some of these things that cause outages that people should stop doing, like every Amazon delivery person holding the door open. So, okay. let's run through.
We're going lightning round, Erica.
Lightning round.
Ready, set, go. Okay, so 80%, 80% of elevator shutdowns are due to elevator doors. So when I say elevator doors, when you're entering an elevator, if you notice on the exterior of both doors, there are these light sensors. These are our door sensors. If anything is impeding the doors from closing safely, an arm, a leg, it will result in an elevator shutdown. In every elevator, there is a hold button. It either says hold or it has 2 arrows pointing in the opposite direction. That button is used so that the controller knows that the elevator door is being held open intentionally and there's nothing safely impeding the doors from closing. If you put your arm, your leg, your Publix bag with your $4 ice cream because you don't want the ice cream to melt and you're running groceries back and forth, it will result in an elevator shutdown. The elevator controller is not a human. It doesn't have a brain. It knows that the doors are attempting to close. There's something impeding the doors from closing, but for some reason, there is an area blocking, something is blocking it. They don't know that it's an intention. So even though it's the courteous thing to do for your visitors, your residents, your friends, your fellow, neighbors, it is the absolute wrong thing to do for your elevator. Making sure that you shut the elevator down. Making sure that you utilize the hold button to prevent the elevator from shutting down is pertinent. 80% of elevator shutdowns are due to elevator doors and being held improperly open. I let managers and board members know, when they issue their newsletters, or they have these conversations or their town hall meetings to mention these things to the properties. I do have one property in Fort Lauderdale, when there is an elevator shutdown, they'll go on the camera and take a look to see who held the door open, and then they have us invoice that client for that resident for the shutdown, because it becomes excessive, especially when you have 23 stories, 432 units, and then you have visitors, residents, vendors, and guests. It is pertinent to educate. Also, when it comes to water, when cleaning the elevator control panel, do not spray anything abrasive on the control panel. Don't spray bleach, don't spray Awesome, don't spray 409, 701, whatever you want, whatever you decide to purchase. Don't use anything organic. We don't care. If you're going to clean the elevator buttons, spray the cleaner onto a microfiber cloth and then gently wipe down. When pushing elevator buttons, do not use a pen, do not use a object, because this will crack the button and need a button replacement. These are things not covered in your maintenance agreement. These are repairs. Maintenance is one thing, repair is different, hence the word difference.
And Erica, super quick from the management side, you want to have a management team that's on top of your staff, supervising your staff, the correct things to do, what not to do, washing floors, exterior floors. If you have elevators that are exterior, like on a terrace, and say on Fisher Island, which is what I used to have, we'd have to wash down the exterior floors immediately outside of the elevator. You want to educate your staff that may be newer or may not know to control the water with just a very damp, light mop, not to hose down the whole area, because all of a sudden you could have a real problem with significant water all the way down, depending on where the cab is sitting, temporarily not used. That water
I had a property doing
water could be a big problem.
They did a facade restoration project, and somebody spilled paint inside, and they went in with a power washer and lost control of the power washer, and up the control panel it went. Let's take care of these machines like we do a baby, because they behave in that form. If we treat the baby, we rub the baby, we hold the baby, we cater to the baby, baby's quiet. If we neglect the baby and don't cater, don't pay attention, it has devastating outcomes.
And also to be aware of, I know from management, we represent boards, right? And we want to save money for our boards. We just have to be very diligent and just factual base. Is a board gone bad because the board went bad and it should be under warranty, or it should be part of our contract? Or did the board get damaged because there was an FPL surge, or there was a power surge, or a loss of power? So these things can get very tricky, and a lot of them can be power related.
Thanks for that, David, because that is a big concern as well. You want to make sure that you have power surges for your elevators to prevent. They're electrical machines. We don't want any of the boards frying because of the power surge.
Right. And so last quickly, Alex, if you want to just briefly talk about modernization with Erica, and then we'll just go to see if there's any Q&A, or to share our email addresses.
Yeah, I think we'll just pick the big one. I think maybe the big two. Lifespan, sort of, Erica, typical lifespan for the elevator before we talk about modernization from original.
So typical lifespan of an elevator is anywhere between 25 to 30 years. If you're within 7 miles of the coastline, you're more towards the 25 mark. If you're within 3 miles of the coastline, you're more towards the 22 mark. Once again, we love our beautiful beaches here, but when it comes to the motors and the electrical components, sometimes the salt and water content in the air just doesn't play well. Hence why some properties also have the same concerns when they have the gates for their parking structures. When they have underground parking, they face the same concerns there. We love our beaches, but sometimes it's not conducive to elevator equipment.
Very much. And I think also one thing we talked about a bit was there are new requirements for elevators here in the last year and going forward. Maybe you could just touch briefly on that, and you're thinking about modernizing some of the new code that's out there.
So right now, most boards and property managers are facing the dilemma whether they need to install DLM, which is door lock monitoring, based off of the state requirement or to modernize. So with upgrading, well, with adding the door lock monitoring software, it allows each elevator has two sets of doors. We have our hall doors and we have our shaftway doors. What the door lock monitoring unit does is it does not allow the elevator cab to move unless all 4 points are made and the elevator is deemed safe for travel. When we're installing, when you know, on the other spectrum, when we're modernizing the elevator, the new technology that comes along with the modernization is already DLM compliant. So it's either we're going to do door lock monitoring or we're going to modernize. You don't want to do door lock monitoring if you know you're going to modernize soon, but the requirement is being placed into effect August 31st, 2025. And the requirement has been pushed back once already. So the DBPR has not released any literature based off of another extension. They're stating that this date is solid as of right now.
Excellent. I think we hit it, David. 12:02.
12:02, 2 minutes over. We do have a couple other points that we want to get to, but of course, if you want to reach out to us, and Erica, thank you so much for joining us with
Thank you for having me.
With your wealth of knowledge. And obviously there's so much to elevators and what to consider from a management's perspective, from a board of directors perspective. Please reach out to Erica at her email address at nouveau-florida.com. So Dalesandro at nouveau-florida.com. If you have any questions, of course, if you're interested in maybe considering Nouveau. Alex Argento, obviously, thank you, our all-star VP of operations here at AKAM. And again, my name is David Ward. Email either one of us here at AKAM if you're considering a change of management, if we can help with anything, or just, you know, an independent, neutral view. That's what we're here for. So thank you all today. And we really appreciate you joining us. We'll have the replay available on our website. And thank you again. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing day, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.